and welcome to this episode of Cruzamento Podcast. We are really happy to record another episode in English. In today's show, we will talk about the intersection of digital and healthcare. My name is Guedelha, and together with me is my friend and co-host André Correia.
Hello and welcome. Today, we have the pleasure to talk to our guest, João Bocas. João, thank you for coming and welcome to the Cruzamento Podcast. Without any further ado, the first question is, who is João Bocas?
Hi, hello, André and Daniel. Many thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be here. Many thanks for the invitation, and I'm truly excited to be in a Cruzamento with you guys. So, what a question. Who I am? How can I describe myself and my life in the last 46 years I'm going to try to do that in 46 seconds. So, well, I'm a Portuguese national based in the UK for the last 20 years. I have many passions, but I would say sport, health, and technology are really my passions. In Portugal, I work in sales for about 9 years in different sectors. In UK, I've been heavily involved in professional sport and also in healthcare technology innovation for the last 20 years. But the last 7 years, I've been heavily involved in digital health and wearables. So I'm looking forward to the discussions in healthcare, really.
Talking about discussions in healthcare, maybe a broad but an important question. How do you see the outlook for the intersection between the technology and the health in the world?
Oh, Daniel, it's very good question. Well, we see really the potential of technology intersection and health is really a very strong alliance, if you like, and is crucial going forward. I mean, technology is everywhere in our lives, from digital technologies, from TV, smartphones, smart wearables, smart devices. I mean, we're surrounded by technology, and health is one of the industries that technology, I strongly believe, will have a major impact. And we have seen that for many, many years, the development of emerging technologies in healthcare, for example, but also recently a very strong example how technologies really add a lot of value to human lives and humanity. With the recent pandemic, what could we do without technology, really? The pandemic was a perfect example of connectivity and technology really kept the world going, really.
And João, the Portuguese national healthcare system was based on the English system, so the so-called NHS. Can you please tell us what the NHS is in the UK? And in your opinion, what are the benefits of their investment in developing a digital and health ecosystem?
Yeah, sure. Well, André, really a lot of similarities, really. We are very fortunate, Portugal and United Kingdom, to have a nationalized public health system that works and is actually of high quality. I mean, despite of many challenges, and I mean, healthcare is complex and is complicated, and of course, health systems are always evolving and changing, and there are many issues around budgets and other things. But I would say very briefly to describe the national health system in UK, I would say is slightly fragmented in terms of integration with technologies. Actually, most people think the national health system is one organization, but there are actually over 200 separate entities that manage different budgets in different geographies, and that turns out to be very complex in terms of managing different health systems and technologies and everything. So it makes things very complicated. But also the delivery is of high quality, is probably the biggest healthcare system in the world. And many countries actually see the national health system, the NHS, a very strong brand to follow and to try to aim for that quality of delivery. And apart from being free, is actually of high quality of health. And the national health system in here is very similar to Portugal. Is very reliable, is robust, and things work. That's the main thing, and that's what you want to know as a citizen, is that you can rely on a system that is very important.
Yeah, relying on the system. And in June 2020, you did an interview and you talk about some of the latest breakthroughs around wearables. João, which are nowadays the most recent breakthroughs and how can they improve our health?
Well, great question. I think we have seen a progression, from smartwatches to smart devices. I mean, medical devices, they've been in the marketplace for a very long time, but now turns out that medical devices capabilities, they come in different shapes and forms and can be on our wrist. It can be embedded in our earbuds, earphones, I mean, smart belts. But I would say the world of wearables is really evolving. In terms of healthcare, there are two very distinct, let's say, conversations in here. One is more the consumer health and wellness in general, and then is the medical device industry and the medical healthcare industry, where I believe wearables can really make a major impact. Of course, they make a major impact in the consumer side, but also in terms of healthcare, because healthcare is complex, but also at the same time is very simple. What we want to achieve is actually preventative health and try to diagnose early, better interventions. And I believe wearables are an excellent vehicle to gather data from the human being and bring meaningful insights about health conditions, from managing them to diagnose them to prevent them. I believe wearables are very, very powerful. But there are many major developments, and to play a bit of a devil's advocate in here, now innovation has moved on so fast that now we're talking about the use of wearables without any devices. For example, we're talking about spaces at home and smart home capabilities with the use of Wi-Fi without even having any devices whatsoever. We can pick up data from the human being, from movement to vital signs without use of wearables. And that's really a major breakthrough. If we think about, we are starting with wearables in healthcare and we're moving so fast that we're thinking about not even using them, but gather the same type of capabilities and data intelligence they can provide. I think that's one of the major breakthroughs going forward. Slightly controversial still, because we haven't really cracked on the wearables as such yet, and we have the possibility of gathering the same data that wearables provide without using any devices. How about that?
It's really exciting, João. And we're talking about wearables, so I would like to bring the next question to one of your projects. You have a podcast or videocast where the topics are all around wearables and healthcare. Can you please share with our audience, how did you start this project?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, so I have a YouTube channel, João Bocas, but the project is Digital Health and Wearables series, where I interview global leaders from around the world weekly. And I had the big vision to create the biggest healthcare channel in the world. The idea, André and Daniel, started, I was thinking, well, I want to create something very meaningful that is useful, quality content, but also leverage my network and bring people together. So I interviewed the biggest healthcare influencers in the world, brands, innovators, public health leaders. I had the Secretary Minister of Health from the Netherlands in a second episode. And I mean, it's a lot of good quality content. I want to create an impact, but also bring the brightest minds in the world to talk about many important subjects in digital health, healthcare technology, wearables, medicine, personalized medicine. On last episode, I had actually someone from Portugal that is doing something very innovative. Tamara Milagre is doing something very innovative around a platform for hereditary cancer to actually prevent people from having cancer and diagnose early, prevent deaths, and really have a major impact. And that's really my vision, really have a major impact on humanity and society by bringing together people, conversations, and brands and technologies and everyone interested in the conversation. So yeah, check it out. It's quite excited. I mean, it's a very rich YouTube channel in terms of content. Thank you for mentioning that, André.
Sure, João. And on top, we'll add you the link of your YouTube channel in the show notes for sure, so that our audience can check it out. And you already, as you mentioned, you already interviewed several international experts in this area. Now, a challenging question, and you have to pick one. Huh? Okay, what was your favorite interview so far, and why?
Oh my God, that's that's like that's a very, very difficult question. It's kind of well, nothing is impossible in life, but it's kind of impossible for me to answer. I mean, I have some friends there, some professional acquaintances. I have people that I didn't know very well. I have people there that I know for many years. Daniel, can I challenge you? Do I really need to pick one?
Okay, you can pick two.
Well, I would say the start of the channel, I spent quite a lot of time planning and brainstorming the start of the channel. It only started in January 2021, but I spent some time in the consumption of the idea and the concept and design and everything. But I started with John Noster, which is one of the leading health tech thinkers and thought leaders and influencers. John done a fantastic interview on episode 1, and I really wanted to have John on episode 1. We've been connected on social media for quite some time. His brain and his thinking is very sharp and is very engaging. So I would go for John. And now I have really a conflict because I had 22 episodes so far. I like them all, to be honest. I didn't want to single out John or anyone else, to be fair.
But João, that's a smart move. You stay with the first one.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Number one answers the question, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's leave it as it is. Actually, thanks for helping me to conundrum the problem. See, that's innovation, isn't it? Working together and sharing ideas.
Absolutely. And still, with all those interviews, João, and all the knowledge that you have accumulated, you also describe yourself as an influencer. For our audience, how do you play your role as an influencer about the wearables?
Sure. Well, one of the things, John mentioned that in the episode, actually. He said, I was very, very pleased because I actually look up to John. And he also said, João, I appreciate your work, and I go to your Twitter feed to know news about wearables, and also he follows my work. So I was very pleased to hear that is actually meaningful what I do. But I try to share the latest news, latest content, latest innovations. I try to share content about other people, whether there is John Nost or other influencers. I try to link people together because I don't know it all. And I mean, it's impossible to know it all. But I try to do a number of things. But I'll give you a very quick example, André. When I started in 2015, I was doing a digital health startup. Didn't work out for one reason or another. Myself and my previous business partner go separate ways. But I had a business card calling myself a digital health influencer back in 2015. And I used to go to networking meetings, the good times when we had networking meetings face to face, right? Lots of evenings in London, late nights. And people used to ask me, hi, Joe, nice to meet you. What does that mean, digital health influencer? I don't want to credit myself as an influencer. I was the first, I was the second, I'm the best, I'm the big. It's not about that. I want to bring people together. But I was probably one of the first people to call myself a digital health influencer. And people used to ask me, but João, what does that mean, influencer? And I said, well, I share news, I link people together, I have a Twitter account, I do this, I do that. And even then was kind of it was a new emerging word. It was a new concept. Now is an industry in its own right of influencers on Instagram, the celebrities. And now everyone is trying to fight for status as an influencer. If you go on Twitter now, everybody's trying to be an influencer in some shape or form. So, yeah, I believe actually I've done something right.
Oh, yeah, João. And maybe taking on that sentence that you just said, I don't know it all. And it's a very fair statement. So how do you get the details and the expert information around the wearables? So how do you do your research to allow you to speak around so many different topics?
Well, good question. I try to follow the news, for example, in terms of research, technology, healthcare is my area. I try to stay within that because it's my primary industry. I know things about other industries, but let's say healthcare is my focus. I follow the latest developments. I follow the startup world. I follow the big tech companies. I follow other influencers. And one of the things that people ask me, how do you grow a following? How do you do social media? I had a couple of people last week asking me to help them with social media. I don't consider myself, above all or very skillful. But what I've done for many years was consistently post good quality content, and I try to go for fresh news so you get some credibility about what you post and everything. So I try to follow the best of my ability the latest developments and try to stay relevant and try to stay up to date, really.
And João, let me change the course of the conversation for a little bit. You've mentioned earlier that you are a Portuguese citizen who has been abroad for a long time now, but you also somehow follow the Portuguese ecosystem. My next question is about talent. What is your opinion about the Portuguese talent?
Well, good question. I think we have really fantastic talent. There are many. Well, we already had some. The proof is in the pudding, as they said in England, but we had already many unicorns come from Portugal in different industries. There are many digital health companies with Portugal and US getting very big. I think we are, and even, for example, even in terms of research, I've done a keynote a while ago for a Portuguese association, and I was, well, not surprised, but I was thinking there's so many like really talented people in Portugal, from researchers to clinicians to entrepreneurs to engineers, the tech world, the engineering world. We actually have a very powerful source of talent in Portugal, and there are many examples of that. I mean, many startups go to Portugal to have head offices there and base the operations there. There is not a coincidence, is because they can rely on talent, and they find talent there out of universities in terms of technology, business, and other very important skills. But we without being controversial, we have it all in a sense. You know, we really have talent in so many directions, and sometimes it's probably underestimated if you are in Portugal. And if you look from an outside perspective, Portugal is really rich, probably now in terms of GDP or minimum salaries, but is actually very rich in terms of skill and talent, really.
Indeed, João. And we talk about skills, talents, and you mentioned a couple of unicorns. And often there is the word coming about artificial intelligence, which is often mentioned when we talk about wearables, which is a subject that you mastered. So how do you define those two topics? So meaning artificial intelligence and wearables. And what are your views around this intersection?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Daniel. A very good question. I actually wrote a book chapter. I'm a co-author of a book called 360 Healthcare, and I wrote a chapter for that book on the combination of wearables and artificial intelligence will be the game changer in healthcare. And that's my vision and my belief. Because a few years ago, let me give you an example. A few years ago, we had the technology, but we didn't have enough data. We didn't have enough research in particular areas of medicine or personalized medicine or around some conditions. Now we have everything. We have the development of the technologies, we have the wearables, the capabilities, and we have a lot of data, which it could be an asset or it could be a challenge and a big problem. And that's where the conversion really comes in. We need the artificial intelligence and capabilities to draw a line which data is relevant, to streamline processes, to in the future just kind of scrutinize what data is relevant, because wearables, they produce, let's say, for example, 6 or 7 or 8 data sets, and you might only be interested in 1 or 2 as a doctor. And as you know, as a doctor, you don't have any time to go through data and analyze patient by patient and go through tons of data. So the combination of artificial intelligence, and wearables is very powerful, and one go hand in hand. I would see wearables collecting the data and artificial intelligence streamlining that process about really narrow down to what data is relevant and give less data and more meaningful insights, and that's where the value really is.
And if there is a common word throughout this whole conversation is wearables. So, João, one of our last questions, with so many wearables out there, what is your favorite one and why?
Oh, wow, what another very challenging question. I know we're off camera and you can't see my work desk at home. I'm at home talking to you, but my desk is full of wearables, from smart rings to smart watches to different brands. And I remember 5-6 years ago, I was testing from Fitbits to Misfits to Huawei Apple Watches. I mean, I really started 5-6 years ago to using these wearables and try them on and see what they get and doing lots of different things. I don't really want to go for a particular one, but I tell you my preference at the moment. I actually have an Oura ring, which I've been following the Finnish innovator Oura for quite some time. And I thought, right, I really fancy a smart ring, but I was in two minds. But they come out with the gold limited version, and I thought, right, I have to have one of those because it looks really good. And that's a different conversation. But I really like a trend in wearables that is fashion tech. So I have actually a gold ring that is a smart health tracking ring that also looks good. But I would say I go for the Oura ring.
Okay, so you have your pick. So, João, thank you so much for your time and availability. We really appreciate it. Also, thank you for sharing your thoughts about wearables in your podcast. I really found it super fascinating and interesting. And of course, all the best for your business. And maybe a last one. Well, that might be easy, but where can people find you online?
Yeah, well, on Twitter, I'm wearables expert. On LinkedIn, by my name, João Bocas. I'm also a CEO of a consulting company in healthcare called Digital Salutem. You can go on www.digitalsalutem.com to see what we do, but I think I'm easily found online.
Thank you very much, João. Also, thank you very much, all our listeners, to have joined us for this episode with João Bocas. Please let us know what you've thought about it over at LinkedIn, Twitter, or by email at cruzamento.podcast@gmail.com. All these details and a lot more will be available in the show notes or at cruzamentopodcast.com. Thank you very much, and I'll see you later.
See you later.